movies you should check out. Good army movies give civilians a taste of what our soldiers go through in battle and throughout their daily lives. While not all of these films feature war, they all use the army as a central theme and feature some of the best soldier moves ever depicted on film. War films have long captivated audiences, showcasing tales of both humanity's cruelty and its nobility. Welcome to DLP Movie, and let's count down our top 10 best army movies of all time you should check out. The Great Escape. Based on the book by Paul Brickell, The Great Escape is a true story of Allied prisoners plotting to break out of Nazi detention camp. Bartlett is the British officer who masterminds the escape. Out of 250 prisoners, only 76 manage to escape, and the number soon dwindles to 24. Hiltz and company must get through Nazi-occupied territory, which is the premise for most of the film.
I need it.
Hey, you blow it off again! Turn the water off! No, it's not real. Dear, see. I'm really finished here. Yeah.
McQueen rides a motorcycle through heavy gunfire in a spectacular action sequence to avoid certain death at the hands of the enemy. But for much longer than is artful or essential, The Great Escape grinds out its tormenting story, without a peek beneath the surface of any man, without a real sense of human involvement. It's a strictly mechanical adventure with make-believe men. Patton. In 1943 North Africa, George Patton assumes command of the American forces. Engaged in battle against Germany's Field Marshal Rommel, Patton drives back the Desert Fox by using the Germans' own tactics. Promoted to lieutenant general, Patton is sent to Sicily, where he engages in a personal war of egos with British Field Marshal Montgomery. Performing brilliantly in Italy, Patton seriously jeopardizes his future with a single slap. While touring an army hospital, the general comes across a GI suffering from nervous fatigue.
We were discussing air supremacy.
Incensed by what he considers a slacker, Patton smacks the poor soldier and orders him to get well in a hurry. This incident results in his losing his command and, by extension, missing out on D-Day. In his final campaign, Patton leads the U.S. Third Army through Europe. Unabashedly flamboyant, Patton remains a valuable resource, but ultimately proves too much of a loose cannon in comparison to the more level-headed tactics of his old friend Omar Bradley. War is hell, and Patton is one hell of a war picture, perhaps one of the most remarkable of its type ever made. We Were Soldiers. At telling of the 1st Battalion, 7th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cavalry Division's battle against overwhelming odds in the Lec Trang Valley of Vietnam in 1965. Seen through the eyes of the battalion's commander, Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore, we see him take command of the battalion and its preparations to go into Vietnam. We also see how the French had, years earlier, been defeated in the same area.
Landing under fire, gentlemen. Men will die. We are going into battle against a tough and determined enemy.
It's pitch black. I can't see anything. We need illumination on the perimeter.
The battle was to be the first major engagement between US and NVA forces in Vietnam, and showed the use of helicopters as mobility providers and assault support aircraft. The bombardment is so graphic and intense that it summons up your primal fight or flight instincts. Anything more intense might kill you. The good thing about all this is that it's not an cool spectacle. It's sickening. You cry out, hide your eyes, go into shock at the violation of these young men's bodies. We Were Soldiers is a fighting epic that makes fighting seem profoundly, hideously unnatural. The Dirty Dozen. Director Robert Aldrich took what he considered a hopelessly old-fashioned script by Lucas Heller and Nunnally Johnson, and fashioned The Dirty Dozen into one of MGM's biggest moneymakers of the 1960s, and the 6th highest-grossing film in the studio's history. Lee Marvin plays Major Reisman, assigned to coordinate a suicide mission on a French chateau held by top Nazi officers. Since no normal GI can be expected to volunteer for this mission.
This war was not started for your private gratification, and you can be damn sure that this army isn't being run for your personal convenience either.
Ernest Borgnine as General Warden. I'm tired of...
Reisman is compelled to draw his personnel from a group of military prisoners serving life sentences, on the dim promise of receiving pardons if they survive. The criminals undergo a brutal training program, then are marched behind enemy lines dressed as Nazi soldiers, the better to overtake the chateau and kill everyone in it, including the innocent wives and mistresses of the German officers. Now you can see the Dirty Dozen, enthralled to hundreds of men and women burned to death at once. The Bridge on the River Kwai. The film deals with the situation of British prisoners of war during World War II who are ordered to build a bridge to accommodate the Burma-Siam Railway. Their instinct is to sabotage the bridge, but under the leadership of Colonel Nicholson, they are persuaded that the bridge should be constructed as a symbol of British morale, spirit and dignity in adverse circumstances. At first, the prisoners admire Nicholson when he bravely endures torture rather than compromise his principles, for the benefit of the Japanese Commandant Sato.
Take up, go!
Unknown to him, the Allies have sent a mission into the jungle, led by Warden and an American, Shears, to blow up the bridge. Part of the success of the bridge is that its courageous hero is shown from all angles, in all kinds of mirrors. He is strong, stubborn, fallible, maniacal, silly, and wise. And in the end he is pathetic, noble, and foolish. A gripping drama, expertly put together and handled with skill in all departments. Apocalypse Now. Vietnam, 1969. Burned-out Special Forces officer Captain Willard is sent into the jungle with top-secret orders to find and kill renegade Colonel Kurtz, who has set up his own army within the jungle. As Willard descends into the jungle, he is slowly overtaken by the jungle's mesmerizing powers and battles the insanity which surrounds him. His boat crew succumbs to drugs and is slowly killed off one by one. As Willard continues his journey, he becomes more and more like the man he was sent to kill. Apocalypse Now achieves greatness, not by analyzing our experience in Vietnam, but by recreating, in characters and images, something of that experience. Apocalypse Now is not merely the greatest film to come out of the Vietnam experience, but one of the great works about the madness of our times. Black Hawk Down. Ridley Scott's Black Hawk Down tells the story of a U.S. military raid that went disastrously wrong, when optimistic plans ran into unexpected resistance. When two of the mission's Black Hawk helicopters are shot down by enemy forces, the Americans, committed to recovering every man, dead or alive, stay in the area too long and are quickly surrounded. The ensuing firefight is a merciless 15-hour ordeal and the longest ground battle involving American soldiers since the Vietnam War. In the end, 70 soldiers are injured and 18 are dead, along with hundreds of Somalians.
My men are surrounded by thousands of Somali militia.
Black Hawk Down was voted one of the top 10 films of the year by the National Board of Review prior to its limited Oscar qualifying release. It takes its place on a very short list of the unforgettable movies about war and its ineradicable and immeasurable costs. Platoon. The movie was written and directed by Oliver Stone, who fought in Vietnam, and who has tried to make a movie about the war that is not fantasy, not legend, not metaphor, not message, but simply a memory of what it seemed like at the time to him. The movie is narrated by a young soldier, Charlie Sheen, based on Stone himself. He is a middle-class college student who volunteers for the war because he considers it his patriotic duty, and who is told, soon after he arrives in the combat zone, "You don't belong here." He believes it. Platoon is not the definitive Vietnam statement that Stone may have intended, or that others are already claiming it to be, but it is a powerful document about that sad war, and a riveting piece of movie making. Full Metal Jacket. Stanley Kubrick's return to filmmaking after a 7-year hiatus. This film crystallizes the experience of the Vietnam War by concentrating on a group of Marine volunteers. Based on Gustav Hasford's novel The Short-Timers, the film's first half details the volunteers' harrowing boot camp training under the profane, power-saw guidance of drill instructor Sergeant Hartman, Arlie Ermey, a real-life drill instructor whose performance is one of the most terrifyingly realistic on record. Part 2 takes place in Nam, as seen through the eyes of the now thoroughly indoctrinated Marines. Ironically, Full Metal Jacket was filmed almost entirely in England. Full Metal Jacket is not a realistic film, it is horror comic superrealism. from a god's eye view, but it should fully engage the ordinary movie grunt. Saving Private Ryan. Following the Allied invasion of Normandy, 2 brothers lay dead in the wake of the onslaught. Meanwhile, in New Guinea, a 3rd brother has been killed fighting the Japanese, after the army general staff learns that a 4th brother is missing in the French countryside. A rescue mission is ordered to find the young soldier and return him safely home. The mission is mounted by a veteran ranger captain commanding a squad of men, who have mixed feelings about risking their lives to save Private Ryan. The film received universal critical acclaim, winning several awards for film, cast, and crew, as well as earning significant returns at the box office. The film is directed by Steven Spielberg and breaks new ground in content and style. It merges some of the most realistically disturbing battle footage ever included in a feature film with a touching human story. What is your favorite movie from the list? Let us know below and do not forget to subscribe.